And when you finally accomplish that, I mean, it's just like no other feeling. And I can't even put it into words, but just sitting here talking about it, like I still have those emotions running through my body. It's like, man, you know, I've worked my whole life to get this to this point, and I did it.
Green flag in the air.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hot Lappin with Lanman this week, episode 4. Hey, I just got back from the West Coast where I was out there in Las Vegas, Tulare, Kern Speedway, and at the Paris Auto Speedway helping out the 13 car of Tom Book, driven by Dason Pursley. Had a really great time out there. Had to do my show remote last week, and it was kind of a challenge. It's good to be back home in the home studio. Look forward to giving you guys some good stuff to listen to again this week. Let's start off real quick, though, with some results from this past weekend. World of Outlaws, David Gravel, swept the weekend down at Cotton Bowl. On the High Limit Series, last Wednesday night, they were at the Tulare Speedway where Kyle Larson got it done at the Thunder Bowl. Friday night, we went over to Kevin Harvick's Kern Speedway where Brad Sweet got the win. Then Saturday night, we followed it up over there at Paris Speedway where Aaron Reitzel pretty much dominated the entire night, set quick time, won the dash, and then got it done in the A main too. So some great racing out west there. With the late model side of things, the World of Outlaw late models got started again. They were at Swainsboro Speedway for a 2-night deal there. Bobby Pierce off the pole got the win the first night, and then Ryan Gustin came back the second night and got that win. Some great racing over there. The Lucas Oil guys, they were out at Atomic to get restarted again with their show. Then the first night was won by Ricky Thornton Jr. Really got the 20 RT rolling around there again. No big surprise there. The second night, it was followed up with Devin Moran getting the win in the 99 car. So just some quicker results there for some of the major series. With that, we're going to roll into this week's show. But I want to start by asking you guys to do me a favor like I do every week. Hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, hit the follow button, and hit the like button. You guys have been doing a great job of that. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm learning, but would appreciate that if you could help me out. I'm really excited with the guest we have on this week here. Currently sits 4th in the High Limit Series out there racing on the West Coast. He's committed to them for the whole year. He's got a great history of winning some big races, and I'm really excited to bring in Brent Marks. All right. Hey, Brent, how's it going today?
Hey, Lan, I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. I know you guys are out west for your swing right now with the High Limit guys. Where are you currently sitting at?
Yeah, we're sitting in Phoenix, Arizona right now, so ready to get racing this weekend again at Central Arizona Speedway. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoying our trip out west so far, which is probably the first time you ever hear me say that. So no, it's been a good start to the season, and I'm just happy to be racing again, man. It's just been a long off season.
It has been. It was nice. I know you guys struggled out at Las Vegas, not struggled with the race car, but getting the show in. So then finally got one show in there, but then they were able to get 3 out of 4 nights of racing in there while starting at Tulare. Talk a little bit about your run over at Tulare real quick.
Yeah, Tulare was a tough one for me, just springtime racing in California. It's just tracks are fresh, they're super rough and wet, and it's just really not my style. And I've had experience on those type of tracks, but just the way I like my cars and how I like for them to feel, it just doesn't really meet that criteria to be able to get through some of those events that are like that. So that was kind of a tough one for us, but we overcame that, got through it, survived the night, and then went and finished 3rd and a 4th. The finish off our West Coast swing, so or California swing, I should say. So so we'll just we'll keep on working on our stuff and try to get better and just get a better handle on things for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you got some great guys behind you. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but let's jump back to Brent Marks as a young guy, getting started in that racing. And it's always good to hear, what got you interested in the racing and how did you ever get started?
Well, I mean, really, it all started with my dad. I'm first generation racer, but my dad was just heavily involved in the sprint car side of things with, I'm sure you remember the Wolf family,
Oh
Donnie
yeah.
and Randy Wolf, and obviously
Yeah.
Lucas Wolf still races. So my dad and Donnie Wolf were good friends. My dad owns a collision shop in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, TJ's Body Shop. So he painted his race cars and helped on his race car as well. They ran URC for a while and the 358s at Williams Grove. So I just I grew up at Williams Grove, going to the races every Friday night and playing in the infield, and just fell in love with racing. At such a young age, and yeah, I mean that's just I was just kind of born into it, I guess, and just really loved it. And I didn't start racing myself until I was 9. It took quite a few years to beg my dad to put me in something, and we ended up deciding to do it and ran go-karts, and yeah, and then next thing you know, here we are. So it's just you know really that's really my backstory of how I started. It is pretty simple. It just my dad was just really involved. I fell in love with it and always wanted to do it. So, and I just was fortunate enough that he gave me the opportunity.
So when I was visiting with you last week, just get to know a little bit more about you. You said you went from the go-karts and you jumped up to the micro sprints, but then
Yeah.
what kind of caught me off guard there was where you went from the micro sprints. And tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, and, we ran go-karts until 2005, and I started in '99, ran go-karts in 2005, and then we started 600 micro sprint racing, and we ran those until 2008. I had a lot of success racing both divisions, and obviously I learned a lot, and it kept getting to the point to where I wanted to move on and do something different. And we didn't talk about this yesterday, but I had the goal of maybe going to NASCAR. And so when I was 16, we decided to maybe try to see what kind of avenue we could get to that level. And so at the time, the driver development programs were big. I'm sure they still are, but I know at the time they were pretty big. So I found one and flew out to California, and tested in that. Did really, really well, actually. And they wanted me to be a part of it, but it was a pay to play thing, so
Absolutely.
they were just 16 years old. They were just asking way too much money from my family, with absolutely no guarantees, which there never is any guarantees. But when you're asking for that kind of money, that's a big risk, and to only race 12 times a year. So that was not something that I wanted to do because, I'm a racer, man. I want to go out and race every weekend, not only 12 times. So that was a tough decision, and decided not to go that route. So a couple of years have passed, and then I started thinking, well, I've always wanted to be a sprint car driver. I mean, that was my dream, obviously as a young kid, NASCAR, I think, is almost probably every kid's dream. That's a racer.
Yep.
Or goal, I should say. So, I had that goal, but at the same time, my dream was to race sprint cars. And so I put my mind to that. And, we just decided that we were going to go ahead and start sprint car racing. But anyways, we jumped from 600s right to 410s. We didn't take no stepping stones and go through 58 racing with 360s. We actually bought a 358 motor and all that, and we're going to go that way. But, we got talked out of it, saying, just that it might teach me bad habits. And so we just bit the bullet and went 410 racing. And, what the crazy thing was that, my dad sat me down because obviously I kept asking him to do it. I was a young kid, no opportunities. And, my dad was my only opportunity. And he's just done everything for me. He's sacrificed so much for me, him and my mom. And I'm so appreciative of that. But, he sat me down and was like, listen, Brent, only thing I can do for you is one car, one motor, and you're going to race Lincoln Speedway every Saturday night. And that's it. Like, I can't do anything after that. You're just going to have to do it yourself, or figure something out. And, so we did that, started running pretty well, my first year. And we started running Williams Grove and Lincoln. And the next thing we're running.
How'd you pull that off? Because it sounded like Dad had it pretty much set on Saturday nights only, and then like any good kid's going to do, is probably going to push him. Maybe we should just go try
Yeah,
Williams Grove or something.
yeah. I mean, that's what it is. But you start doing well, and you start making money, and then you start opening yourself up to other opportunities, and more sponsorship starts to come in, and so the money flows just more, so you're able to do more.
Yeah.
And that's really how it kind of started for us. Just I was out there, and I was actually doing pretty decent to where we were making a little bit of money to be able to go do other things, and so that's what we did. So, and then I took that and was able to grow it over the years to, going on the World of Outlaw tour for my first time in 2017, and running, 3 years on the Outlaw tour, and then taking a little bit of a break and going to do something different, and then start my team back up again, and then doing what we're doing now. So it's just crazy how it all works, but it's really just about running well, having success, and marketing yourself, getting the sponsorship to be able to do what we do. That's how you get the money flow to be able to do
Yeah.
this, obviously. So there's just a lot of hard work, man, and it took a lot of time, a lot of dedication to get to this point. Sacrificed a lot in my personal life to be able to do this. So, but it's worth every minute of it.
And I think a lot of people would be surprised when you say that word sacrifice. It is a true sacrifice. And a lot of the people say, they see the big trucks and trailers rolling in, and they see you guys backing the cars out, and they think, man, what a glorious life.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
wouldn't you just like to invite them just to come along from, like, say, last Tuesday or Wednesday through Sunday and say, how glorious is this?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's easy to say that from the outside looking in. I mean, you and I probably said that about other people who have gone through a lot in their life to get where they're at. So it's easy to say, but for someone like me, I had to work extremely hard to try to be successful in this sport. Other guys have maybe more of a natural talent to where they just had so many opportunities down the road, but not all of us get that. Some of us have to, work more and sacrifice more to get to where we want. And, that's nobody's fault. It's just fate. It's just the way the world works. It has nothing against anybody else, but it's just, I'll just use Tom Brady, for example, in the NFL. He was never really a natural talent, but he worked his ass off and sacrificed so much to get to where he was. So, and I was always a fan of him because knowing his backstory and what he had to do. So, I use that as an example. And, so the same goes for someone like me. And it's not just me. There's a lot of other guys in this sport that have done the same thing as me. When I was in high school, I never went to any school dances or parties, or I was never part of anything at all. I put 100% of my efforts into what I wanted to do as a career, but I had to, though. If I slacked off just a little bit, I found myself falling behind, and the same goes even to this day. If I'm not up on my game every single day, I end up falling behind, and I don't know why, but that's just the way life is, for someone like me. But and I see other guys to where I know they're working really hard, but they're able to go do other things, and they're just able to jump right back into it, and bam, they're just successful right away. But I just have to work really hard, I guess, and that's totally fine. And I find a lot of I find a lot of gratitude because of that. So just very gratifying when we do have success, knowing how much work went into it.
Exactly. And being successful, I think, too, is having good people behind you. And obviously your dad has been behind you from day one. You made that clear right away. But you've had Fudd, which a lot of people probably know the name. Fudd's real name is Dennis Christ.
Dennis.
Is that right?
Yeah. Dennis Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had to do a little homework because I've always just known it's just Fudd, So
yeah, I know.
And I know Heath's
I
been
didn't
with
even
you
know
for
his real name for 3 years when I first got to know him.
And then you got Heath Moylan's been out there with you for good at least 4 or 5 years now, hasn't he?
This would be his, what is it, 4th year? Yeah.
Okay, fourth year.
So,
and then Jared, has Jared been with you for a while, or is he new now?
this would be Jared's second year with me.
Okay.
So him and Heath worked together when Heath was a crew chief on the 27, the Hefner car.
Okay. Okay.
So,
But
yep.
but you've got, and nothing against Jared because he's on his second year, but Heath and Fudd have been together 4 or 5 years. And I think what I'm seeing more and more of is keeping the same personnel around you is important to success. Forgetting, everybody likes to say, well, they haven't gelled yet. Well,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that. Some guys can, some guys get together a lot, but I see, like, let's just look at David and Cody right now. They're gelling really good. Brad's had his core guys around him for many years. Back when Donnie was smoking everybody, he had Rick and Scuba out. They were just always there. And now you've got those 2 guys that have been there for 4 or 5 years. Do you feel that makes a huge difference?
It does, and a little bit of backstory back to putting this whole team together was, obviously they've worked together for a period of time here, but Keith and Fudd, I mean, they used to work better together back in LMR too. So they were already working together then, and so there was already a relationship there. And then and then Jared, Heath and him had worked together at Hefner. So, there was already that relationship there. And I felt like that was an easy transition whenever they came to my team. And, I just felt like, putting together that group of guys was just perfect, and I think that that is so important to have guys that do gel together and, work together so well, because it just makes everybody's job easier. I mean, it's just simple. It just makes everybody's job easier. The communication is good. And I'm just, makes me more confident in my team. I think it brings more success. And, the main thing is, like I said, just communication. So they do a phenomenal job. I'm just really proud to run up and down the road with them every week and stand in victory lane with them whenever we have the opportunity.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed that I probably haven't noticed in the past, but when you spend, a week and 10 days out there with paying attention to stuff, you're a very hands-on driver yourself when it comes to your race car. It seems like guys are either all hands-on or no hands-on, but you understand your race car and you know the feel you want. And like even out in the parking lot, just doing maintenance, I noticed on Saturday, you're there all day with your guys. And is it just you wanting to be in touch with everything that happens to that race car, knowing, I mean, I'm not saying that there's a lack of trust by any means to those guys, because you obviously could do that, but your race car inside and out also.
Yeah, I do. And, that's something that's really important to me, and I have 3 guys, working for me now. So I don't do as much as I used to. I kind of let them do their thing, so I have stepped back a little bit when it comes to some things, but, just heavily involved in all the adjustments that go to on in the race car, what I'm trying to look for, but also another thing about so important of having guys that communicate so well is to be able to lean on them and take their advice of what they think we should do. So, Heath and I work very well when it comes to that. And, it's just, like I said before, I feel like I've always had to work extremely hard to get where I'm at. And, that's part of it. That's what I do. I want to be involved in it. I want to be hands-on on the race car so I know what's going on when I jump in the thing, and I want to be in control of my own destiny. I was in that position before to where like I wanted to go and try to do something different. All I've ever done was race from, in my car, my stuff.
Yep.
I wanted to go do something different. And I did that in the past and it didn't really work out well for me. And I guess I had a hard time dealing with the fact that there was nights that I just wasn't in control, and I couldn't do what I think I needed to do to make myself more comfortable in the car. And I just didn't perform. So I didn't like that. If we're struggling, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we can turn that deal around. And I think that's why, you've seen me pass so many race cars in the past, coming from the back to the front, just because, just never give up. It's like, if we're that far behind at the game of night, like, trust me, we're gonna change that thing around 10 times if we have to get the feel that I need. So, so yeah, I mean, that's really my biggest reason. I just, I like to try to be in control of my own destiny.
Yeah. So jumping back, you said in 2017, you made the decision to leap in with both feet and go World of Outlaw racing. And I couldn't get back any further than where my source was to 2018. But talk about that first year out there, what the difference was compared to running back. And let's not discredit anything in PA, because the PA guys have the toughest local racing. And California's catching up, but we've known Pennsylvania is just, it's tough to go out there and even make a show. So you jump into the World of Outlaws. What's the difference there on a night-to-night basis?
Obviously, you're racing against the best that there is, the best crew chiefs, the best crews, the best drivers, the most well-funded car owners. So everybody just has a lot of resources, relationships throughout the country. That way, if they are in a particular region and they're struggling a little bit, like, there's always somebody to lean on. So, they're just overall, are just on another level, so that was something that was really different, for me. Jumping into the World of Outlaw series, was learning all of that, and obviously seeing a ton of new racetracks, and spending so much time in Pennsylvania. We did quite a bit of traveling, but we traveled wisely, though, so, we weren't hitting some of these places that, I generally wouldn't go, but, you had to, obviously, because you're part of a series. So, that was just a challenge, man, just to try to get a feel what I needed, to change as a driver, what I needed to feel differently in my cars to be faster, because it's just different, racing in Pennsylvania, and even like now when we hit some of these new tracks, it's just, I'm still learning, I think we all do. We all still learn. Everything's always changing. There's nothing ever the same in these cars, it seems like. So it's tough, but that was definitely a scary time of my life, because I felt like I had a pretty good job at the time. And then, knowing I wanted to go do this professionally and really start my own business, owning a race team, it was a tough decision, but very well worth it. And somebody I haven't really gotten to mention so far in this podcast is Alan Murray. He owns M&M Painting Construction.
And I was actually working up to him, so we were going to get him, but I'm glad you brought it up. So you're doing your job.
Just talking about the first year on the World of Outlaw Tour, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without Alan Murray and his commitment to our team. And I just at the time, spent the couple of years prior to that trying to build up to that, right? I knew what I wanted to do. How do I put it all together? That was the question. Funding is the most important thing. You got to have funding to do any of this. So looking for a partner, somebody that would be willing to even take a chance on me was the hardest thing. But Alan Murray was the guy that was willing to take a chance on me, and I'll forever be grateful for him and his investment into our race team. So I'm just very thankful for that. And so we've been able to carry this relationship on, for many years now. So that's just really wonderful. Something that means a lot to me deeply. And then we started Brent Marks Motorsports in 22, which was really cool, something different, a new chapter in my life, my career, a new chapter for our team, something that I was very proud of.
And just curious, what was that job you quit?
So I was a service technician for a medical company. So I used to work on like sterilizers, washers, OR tables, OR lights, just you name it, whatever was involved in like an ORs I worked on. So it was different, but it was interesting. I learned a lot. I had a lot of tough days, but just happy to be racing, put it that way.
Yeah. So 2018, you turned the corner a little bit, and I think, like I said, I was doing my homework as hard and fast as I could here, but
Yeah.
June 2nd of 2018. Does that date ring a bell for you at all?
Yeah, I think that was Wilmot, right? When I won my
Yep.
first outlaw race. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's that feeling like? You've been busting your tail, you've been taking your, everybody takes their lumps when they come out there. I don't care who you are. And you finally get that first win.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It was awesome, man. I mean, it was something I'll never forget. Not only did we win that race, we kicked their asses. So that was pretty cool. But no, I just, that one meant a lot to me. We won a lot of sprint car races. This was never able to get a World of Outlaw win, and that was our first one. And I felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And it seemed like after that, the other ones just came easier. But one thing about that year particularly, and about that win, it was just me and one other guy, Jesse Lentz. He went all in with me whenever I started this deal back in 17, and he was like a little brother to me. And he's moved on with his life and is doing other things. But man, that was just so special. It was just me and him out there on the road, and doing it on a shoestring budget, just trying to make it. And to be able to accomplish something like that with him, that's meant a lot to me. So that was a really cool experience. Something I'll never forget.
Yeah, and then you go out to Weedsport, which is much closer to home, and you get that second one of the year also. Was that any different just because of the location and probably the people who were able to be there with you?
I mean, that was great. Anytime you win a World of Outlaw race is special. Anytime you win a National Series race is just special. So, I mean, that just, that was great. That was just one of those races where you win that first one and a lot of people could be just like, just got lucky or they were just really good that night. But when you go and win multiple races throughout a year, it kind of puts it in perspective. It's like, hey, we're here to stay. We can be a successful team. This is what we do. We can come out here and win races. And we were able to prove that, I think, pretty early in our full-time career. And then really when we started Brent Marks Motorsports, we really, I think, etched our name into that part of being one of the most successful teams. So I just think it was pretty special. It's just to think back and look at the build up to where I'm at now and what it took to get there and the struggles that we had and the successes that we had and how much like those successes meant. It's just it's pretty cool to look back at it.
Yeah. So you did your deal up till 19, and then you took a year off. You didn't take a year off racing, but you went and explored some other options, and you drove the CJB car, Chad Clements and Barry Jackson. And obviously it's an opportunity to learn, and you've kind of expressed how you thought that went where you're not in control of your own thing. Give me just a little quick rundown of that year, some highs and some lows.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I felt like we had a good. I mean, that was when I was in that car. Is when Kyle was back to racing sprint cars full time.
Oh,
I think we ran second to Kyle like 9 times. So, I mean, we had a good tenure in the 5 car, and but I was looking for something different. Running up and down the road on a shoestring budget. Would have busting your ass, and you wake up every morning really tired and drained. It's like you get to the point where like I just want to try something different. Like I need something to rebuild myself, rebuild my career, get me back to the point to where like I love doing this again. And I'm not saying I never loved it, but it gets really hard whenever you're trying to make it out here. And just was hearing some rumblings about what was going on over there, and CJB was very successful with gravel, and and I got to know Barry a little bit out on the road, and so always had so much respect for Barry and still do to this day. So I just wanted to be a part of something different, and so I put my name in the hat. I was fortunate enough to be selected, and so that was a great experience for myself personally. I was able to uh, build on that and learn different things and experience different things, and I think that overall made me a better driver.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't last long. We didn't have a long tenure in the car, but I felt like we had a good bit of success in it. We were fast at times. We had some wins. We did well. I didn't really do all that well in the big stage in that car, which was something that I think was hard, just knowing where that team was and what they have done in the past. I felt like, as a driver, I should have been up there too, but I just wasn't performing at that type of level at the time. But like I said, that was a learning experience for me. And then that came to an end, and my mindset was always, and if I ever had an opportunity, I'm going to keep all my stuff. I mean, I already have it. It's bought and paid for. Like, why would I sell it in case something ever happens? Like, at least I can go race again and not try to spend months trying to find another opportunity, because, I mean, let's face it, as a driver, you can be fired tomorrow and not have another opportunity for months. You just,
Exactly. Yeah.
there's just not enough opportunities out there. So, I kept all my stuff, so that made that transition easy to just go back to my team, started back up again, and we just we started back up in 21. I think May of 2021 is when I started it back again, and we just kind of went and raced wherever, whenever, did what we could.
Was that kind of when you isn't that when Murray stepped in quite a bit bigger for you guys? You kind of refreshened your team up a little bit during the 2021 season. I think where you had a little bit more funding available for yourself also. Now I may be wrong on that, but it seemed like you guys made a big announcement that year too.
We did. So at the end of 21 is when we announced Brent Marks Motorsports, which was starting in 22. And 22 is when that all kind of changed, because the funding structure was different whenever we went to CJB, and it was very important to me that I kept my relationship with my sponsors whenever I was at CJB, because, well, number one, they've done so much for me over my career, so I wasn't just going to go jump in with another team and be like, oh, well, thank you for all the years of help, I'm going to go do this other opportunity. I don't need you anymore. Like, I was not going to do that. I mean, number one, I find that very disrespectful. So there's a lot of money that goes into this, and so any other opportunity that I had, I wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for them to be able to be marketed on another race team,
which I'm sure they appreciated very much. Also, staying in the loop.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think they did. So then that kind of made the transition easy to go back to my team because, obviously still had the sponsorship. And so to bring that back into Brent Marks Racing, and we just started that up again. I had nothing, like nobody. I mean, I called Fudd was not really in it anymore. I think he was pretty much done with racing full time. So I had nobody. I called Bud up. He only lives 5 minutes from the shop, so I called Bud up when I came in. I'll put my deal back together. Can you help me? I need some help. He's like, yeah, I'll come back and help you for a little while. So it was just me, him, and my dad, and we had some friends that live locally. They came and helped on the weekends and stuff like that. So and then actually went out and had a lot of success and won quite a bit of races in 21. And I was like,
and not any slouches either. You decided when you were going to win them. Let's have some big numbers behind them.
Yeah, we did. So that was really cool. Just because I was not prepared at all for that year, as far as running a race team. So just to be able to put those numbers out was really special. And the minimal help that we had, and being able to still have that kind of success was really special. And then after that, I was like, okay, we're back in the building stage here. Let's let's figure out what we need to do. I got to do it differently this time around. I'm not going to just do it on a shoestring budget anymore. Like, if we're going to do it, we're going to go out and do it. We're going to do it right. And if we're able to build this right, I think we can go out and have a ton of success and make a lot of money. Right. So,
that's the easy part, is putting the plan together. Now, how do you execute that plan?
Execute it, right.
Yeah.
And it was about putting the right people together. I just felt like I needed to put the right people together, people with more experience than maybe I even had, and who've been out on the road longer. So had the opportunity there to talk to Heath Moyle. It was around Tuscarora 50 time of 21, and we were actually at Port Royal walking up to the pit shack to get our pit bands, and I was walking with him, and I've known Heath for a while prior to that. I was walking with him, and I just said, "Hey man, how's things going for you?" And he's like, "Oh, it's all right. I don't know, So I was like, "Well, hey, if you ever have a change of heart and if you want to go anywhere else, like, give me a call. Like, I would love to have you, here with me at my team." And then, yeah, we talked later in the year, and then started first time in 2022 together. And it was just me, him, and Bud. And then we went out and had a spectacular year in 22. And I was still in the same thing. Like, I was in the rebuilding stage. It's like, this isn't something that I can just do within months. It's going to take me a while to get to where I want to be. So I was still in the rebuilding stage. And then we just kept building. I kept building a different plan and talked to them guys. And then we added Jared on. And then we decided, okay, let's go back to full-time racing again, like on a national scale, with the national series. But, fortunately High Limit was starting their deal. So that was something new and fresh, and something that I, talking to Brad, I really liked the direction and the vision that they had. Because I'll be honest with you, like, I was kind of maybe eyeballing World of Outlaws again, but wasn't 100% sure because we had a really successful year. So we proved that we could do it without being on a series. But
yeah,
I was still kind of eyeballing it a little bit. But then there's points, to where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. But then High Limit came along, and that kind of changed my perspective on it all and their vision. And I'm really happy that we're doing that now.
So let's talk a little bit about 2022. Probably a year that, you could hardly even dream of. And especially there's a place called Eldora Speedway that you checked into a couple times that year.
Yeah.
And the historical big one and the Kings Royal weekend, both on this, a 4-day deal. And what's your mindset rolling in there?
Well, that was hard. I'll be honest with you. It was hard just for the simple fact because, rolled in there driving a truck across the track, and the guy that waves you past, I can't remember his name, but anyways, he stops me, talking a little bit. He's like, "Hey, you're my guy to win this week. You're my pit," and him and a dozen other people were telling me that, right? So it's like, man, like, I got enough pressure as it is doing this. Like, I don't need more pressure, So, yeah, because we just came off we won the PA Speed Week. I think we won like 5 races out of that whole deal. We were winning all the big stuff prior to that. It just seemed like every time there was a big race, we showed up and we were in contention to win it. We won it. And so you roll into the big races like that, and then obviously everybody's, picking you to win. And that's just a lot of extra added on pressure. And so you try not to think about it, obviously, but it's still in the back of your mind. So that was just a hard week in general because, number one, I love the Knoxville Nationals, right? And I think that still is the most important race in sprint car racing. It's our Super Bowl. But as a driver, like, I know I'm not quite up to par at Knoxville yet to be able to win that race. I feel like I can contend, but I'm not quite there yet. So 22, like, I know that. Okay, we have a great year. We won a race at Knoxville. We won the Outlaw race back in May, or I think it was or June, whatever it was.
June. Yep.
Yeah, we won that. So we know, okay, like, we could probably go and contend at Knoxville this year, but I've been really quick at Eldora. Like, I really, really want to win this Kings Royal. Like, I think this is our perfect opportunity to do it. that's the race I've been eyeing up. Like that's my biggest goal that I've had over the last several years, right? And then the historical big one was something new that, that they brought back from however many years ago. I actually think it was like, I think at the time, and I think it was like 19 years prior to that was the last time, which was funny because, number 19. So, yeah. So, we, started 14th in that race and just thinking like, I would love to just run up the top 5 here, maybe right outside the top 5. That'd be great. The next thing you know, we're just picking them off. And, man, I got a really good car and, run up there and take the lead and we win that race. And that was just, wow. This was not expected, and then go and do the same thing for King's Royal. I still to this day cannot describe the feelings that went through my body that week. I mean, it's just undescribable. It's just one of those things that you have to experience to understand. But it was, there's no other way for me to put it in the words other than it was amazing.
Well, and as the businessman, people might not realize this, but you had to make a business decision that weekend also. They had one of the races that rained out, and on the Saturday of the King's Royal, which was $175,000 to win, they had an afternoon show. Yep. And you guys decided to just leave the car parked. Tell me, what goes into that decision making right there?
Well, that's a hard thing to make. I'm a racer. I want to go race. But at the same time, we were looking at the big picture. We don't have any time or opportunity. If I went out there and wrecked the thing, we have no time or an opportunity to really put ourselves in a proper position later that night to win the race. Because, let's just be honest, we're not at the time, we weren't racing on a full-time national scale. We didn't, we have the equipment and all that, but we weren't properly prepared to be able to just bring down the same car in the same night because we don't have to. Who cares? We weren't racing for points, right? So we didn't need to be that prepared at the time. And that was a tough choice because, there was a race that was happening. I have partners on my car. We have an obligation to be out in the racetrack at all times. So that was hard. But what I did was I called up all my partners and I told them what my thoughts were and asked their opinion. And if one person would have told me, no, Brent, I want you to go race, I would have went race. But every single one of them supported my decision. And it worked out. So I was very fortunate of that. And, that was just, I actually forgot about that until you brought it up. I just, one of those things you just kind of brush off, but, I forgot about that.
But to me, that was a key. That to me, that was a wise decision because, and exactly what you already said was, you're not committed to any series. You don't. That's the one nice thing about having a pick and choose or an outlaw schedule. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah, and and sitting out that race is hard too because you don't know. I mean, we could have had an opportunity to win that one too.
Yeah,
but so like you're leaving money on the table, but at the same time. That was my goal, was to win the King's Royal that year. And that was my biggest goal, my number one goal. And that was the only thing I was thinking about at the time. So, fortunately it worked out.
So that the night of the King's Royal, the historical big one was run first. And you actually started pole of the heat race that night. And you started beside Rico. And that's how you got to 14th was you actually... Starting inside of the front row is an advantage most of the times at Eldora. And so you ended up running third in that heat race. You come in kind of bummed out after your high expectations coming into Eldora, knowing now we're starting 14th?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a bad motor stumble on the start, and Eldora is notorious for that. I mean, you can have a stumble there so easily. I think some of it is because if you're starting on the inside row, you kind of like run up the hill some. Yeah. And I don't think... Trying to think back to that, I don't think my pace was fast enough. There's different variables that go into it, but I screwed it up. Bottom line is
I wasn't trying to pick on anybody there at all. My next point was going to be you're in the same position the night of the King's Royal. You're on the pole starting beside Donnie Schatz, and apparently you figured some stuff out because you won that one.
Yeah. I usually try not to make the same mistake twice, so. I knew I made a mistake there. just all on me and come into that heat. I'm really upset about it. It's one thing about me, like nobody's going to be a harder critic of me than myself. I'm going to be the hardest on myself. I don't care. I don't care if anybody, you can come up and yell at me because I made a mistake about something. Just because you're yelling at me doesn't mean you're any madder than me than myself, So,
Yeah.
But no, that was tough, man. I just remember coming in after that heat race and super, super angry. And I always try to hide my emotions. I try to keep them in. One thing that's always stuck with me ever since I was a kid was my dad told me, if I ever see you throw your helmet, you're done racing. And that's always stuck with me, even to this day, even though I love my dad, but he has no control of whether or not I race or not. So,
Yeah.
It doesn't have that control anymore, but it still sticks with me because that's something that is very important of, I think, my character, somebody who I want to try to be. I have three daughters now. I don't want them to see me, having tantrums or anything like that. So I personally hide my emotions. I keep them in check as much as I can. If I got to walk away, take a breather, that's what I do. But so anyways, I was very, very upset about that, but determined to turn it around and take my mistake and turn it into a positive. And we did it.
Yeah. And I noticed like on lap 14 or something, you're still back in 7th, 8th, or 9th. And it's kind of like the seas parted. Your car was really, really good, bottom, middle, or top. And it didn't matter if you were behind dirty air or anything. That thing was just stuck that night.
It was, and our program was really good too. Honestly, I thought our program has been great all the way up until the tire change. And we just kind of been struggling to find that same type of feel. But, our cars were always kind of stagnant beginning of a race, maybe even upwards to halfway of the race, where we just kind of rode around, wherever position we started, we just kind of rode around that general area for most of the race. And then the field would wear off to a certain point to where like it really came together. And then after that, it was gone. So, we were really good at the time, and we still have our moments now, but we need to catch up to where we were. And I think we'll make some headway on that. But no, man, that was just a special year. I think we all have years in our career to where we can not do anything wrong. Use Donnie, for example. Donnie's had years to where, you could probably rip a sideboard off of that top wing and you still have to go out there and win the damn race, So,
yeah,
it's
great
crazy.
when you have that feeling too, isn't it?
Yeah,
as a driver.
Trust me, it's awesome to have that feeling. You never want to let it go, but racing's racing, and it's hard. So you have those years to where you just cherish them, and you have other years that you just want to forget.
Yeah. So you finish off that weekend, and then we'll move on. But this to me, this was just this cool subject that I just kind of wanted to get some insight from you on, because now you've had time to absorb. It's been a couple of years, but you roll out there for the King's Royal, which was the goal for the weekend. The historical big one was a bonus. Hey, we'll take that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly.
But and you're starting in a much better position, and you drive up to the front, and you actually finish that deal off, and I can't just imagine the relief, the joy. I don't know, sitting in the cockpit at the scales when they say, hey, you're good. Take her up front. Yeah. Share that with us.
I know, man. I'm just sitting here getting goosebumps about it still. It's just, like I said earlier, I wish I could put it into words, the feelings that I had. I don't know. I could just, I don't mean to sound like giving myself a pity party here, but I just felt like I've had to work so damn hard through my whole career to get me to a point to where I could enjoy wins like that and just have the opportunity to win races like that. And when you finally accomplish that, it's just like no other feeling. And I can't even put it into words, but just sitting here talking about it, like I still have those emotions running through my body. It's like, man, I've worked my whole life to get to this point, and I did it, and it's like, I did it. Now what? Now what do I do? Like, I accomplished it, and it's like, what do I do now? So, then it's like, okay, well, let's go do it again,
Yeah,
but,
that's
that's what we got to do. But, and the funny thing is we went there next year and ran second to Donnie. So damn close to making it 2 in a row. That would have been awesome. But, they were they were on another level that night. I could barely keep up with them, but, still, it was just, that was just a really special moment. I will forever be thankful that, I had that opportunity.
yeah. And then, you said, well, what do we do next? Well, how about go win the Williams Grove National Open?
Yeah.
I think you've got that notch in your belt now too.
Yeah, we got 2 of those actually.
Yeah.
One 19 and 20. Was it 22? I forget what year I won it again. 22.
Yeah.
22.
But not bad for a guy that just gets to race Saturday nights at Lincoln, right?
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, I know. And the crazy thing was Williams Grove National Open. So back in 21, when I started the team back up again, right? It was 22. We won it. So 21, I started the team back up again. I was leading the National Open. And it's just one of those deals to where, like, your car's good enough, you're fast enough, the pace that you have. There's nobody beating you, right? Like, I would have to really screw up or something would happen for somebody to beat. Like, as a driver, that at times. Well, that was one of those nights. And we're out there we're running away with the thing. And I made a bad judgment call on a lap car and hit the guy and spun out. And so I gave away the National Open at 21. And that sucked, man. That really, really sucked. That would have like set my year over the top. That would have been awesome. And so came back in 22 more determined than ever, even over my first National Open win, and won that. And so that was like a gratifying moment to where, like, man, I made this mistake last year, but I was able to turn it around and make up for it this year. So that was great. But yeah, so it's to win races like that, especially at Williams Grove, growing up there as a kid and be able to stand on the front stretch of, some of the greats, like, Steve Kinder, Donnie Schatz, Sammy Swindell, Stevie Smith, Steve Smith, Fred Raymer, Lance DeWeese, Keith Kaufman, Wolfgang, just all of them, man. It's just so cool.
Yeah, it is. So you've won in Charlotte, you've won some preliminaries at Knoxville or some regular Outlaw shows. You've won at Eldora and you've won at the Grove. So there's this race that they have out in Knoxville, Iowa in August usually. And what's it take to win that race? And obviously that's probably a loaded question because you haven't done it yet, but, and I'm not saying that you definitely can't, because you've shown that you have the speed. What does it take to get into Knoxville and be successful?
I don't know. If I had that answer, I'd give it to you, but I'm still trying to find it. We've had so here's the thing about Knoxville for me. I'm either like, I'm up here or I'm down here. There's something in between for me right now. So it's either we're really bad or we're really good. And I felt like we've had our moments there to where we had an opportunity to maybe run top 3. 22 was the year that honestly I thought I had a shot at it. We started 4th in that race. I was passing for, what was I passing for? I think I was passing for 2nd at the halfway break. Car was really good. I mean, our lap times are better than the leaders. Like, we were just really, really, really good. And I was passing for 2nd, going down the back stretch. They threw the yellow for the halfway break, so I was still 3rd. And went in. I didn't want to make any adjustments on the car. All we did was bolt a fresh set of tires on, and I went out there and I was complete junk. I was so mad after that race. I was kicking myself in the butt. I'm like, why did I decide? Like, why did I tell my guys to put new tires on this thing? Why did we do this? And it was so frustrating because, like, knowing my history at Knoxville, I felt like that was my one and only opportunity, right? So that was really hard. I was really hard to grasp. And then we went there in 23. I missed out on the race by 1 spot. Seemed like we were always 1 spot short the whole week long. Like, nothing went my way. that was really frustrating. And then we went there last year and I think we started top 10. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I think we
Yeah.
started 10 or like ninth or eighth or something like that feature, and felt like we were pretty decent, most of the race, and got that halfway break again. We made some changes and we were just bad. So if I had an answer for that question right now, it would be eliminate the halfway break. Just run it
Well, how about
35
this?
laps or something. So
Or run it 50 laps, but one guy
yeah,
only for fuel. Let's just put fuel in the cars.
just something. I don't know.
And Paul Silva made everybody look foolish again last year. Hell, they just left the same tires on Kyle's car during the break.
Well, and that's the thing, and that I talked to my guys about this after 22. It's like, I think we do it out of habit. You see everybody else doing it, so it's like, well, if they're doing it, we might as well put new tires on too. But I specifically remember this because I was so mad about it, and looking at my tires after the halfway break in 22, like after the feature, going back and looking at everything, that things look great. I was like, man, we probably could have ran another 50 on these things yet. And I'm like, why did I decide to change them? Because that was my decision. The guys even asked, like, do you want to change them? And I'm like, well, yeah, we have to. I mean, we were passing for second. Like, I need tire at the end of this race, thinking, that's what we needed. But I made that mistake. And then Paul Silva is a perfect example. He just runs the same damn tires all night long. It doesn't matter. But
I know.
I mean, shit, he's running, used tires too most of the time. But no, we just have to. There's just some mistakes that I feel like I made and that I've learned from. But here in the future, if we're in that position and the tires look great, we're that good. I told my guys already, like, listen, we're in that position again. We are not changing tires. I don't care if every single other car changes tires. If we are that good and our tires still look good, we're not changing them. So, I've already lived there and learned from it. And, we just have so many inconsistencies with our stuff and, the product that we get to where like your car's not going to always be the same every time it hits the track. So when you're in a race like that, you gotta do everything you can to keep it the same.
Yep. You mentioned earlier, since the new tire came out, that you guys have been not as comfortable as you were before. And I hear that from a lot of guys. Well, we're going to hear it from the guys that can't get their stuff going because obviously they're struggling.
Yeah.
What do you think's different? Is it the stiffness of the sidewall? Is it the overall compound? Because what I see, the tires aren't wearing out like they used to, and that's just my opinion. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a little bit of both. I maybe more compound than anything. I don't think I think a lot of it's more in the right rear tire. I just don't think it grips like it used to. So, like when a tire's not gripping like it should, it makes your car do different things. Things that you might not necessarily like, or you mechanically have to make your car do what you're wanting it to do. And so, like when you're getting into that, you make an adjustment here, well, it affects something somewhere else. So it's like you're constantly running around trying to, balance everything back out again, right? So that's that's a tough thing. And whenever this new tire came out, that's when we kind of started more of, okay, we're going to get back into the national touring thing. And so now we're at a different racetrack every single weekend. We're not able to just kind of, for example, if we're struggling right now, we can't just be like, okay, let's pack up, let's load up and go home. Let's race at Williams Grove and Port Royal for the next 3 weeks or something. Let's figure our crap out and let's go back at it again. Like, we don't have that opportunity anymore like we used to. Because sometimes we did that. If we were struggling a little bit, we'd pack up, go home. Let's go race a little bit, the same places. Let's figure it out, get a balance again, and then let's go back at it again. So we just don't have that opportunity right now. So I feel like it prolongs what I'm trying to find, and it also doesn't help too that, High Limit's taking us to a lot of new racetracks that I've never seen. So, I mean, for the next 2 weeks, I'm seeing new racetracks. So anyways, you're trying to find that balance and it's hard, but this new tires just changed the game a little bit, at least in our program. I think it's helped some guys, but it's hurt a lot of guys.
And I would agree with
just,
that statement. That's what I was going to say earlier too. The guys
yeah,
that have they've really taken off on it too.
yeah. I mean, and that's with, I think with any change, you're always going to have teams that it helps. And it's not by design, it's not like they're out there making these specifically
No.
for that team. It's just the way it works. That team could be consistent. They're good. They're okay, but they're not out there setting the world on fire, but they're always there. Right. And
Yep.
then the small change happens. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that played in that team's favor. And next thing you know, they're the best thing going right now.
Yeah.
So they could turn around and change the tire tomorrow, and those teams might not be good anymore. And then a team like ours could come back to life again, So it's like, it's just an ever revolving, it's just a revolving door when it comes to that stuff. And, but you still got to be on your game. You got to figure it out. You got to make it work. It's just, I personally like my car a certain way, and I don't think it's working out so well with this tire. So I have to change. My mindset has to change. That's something that we've been learning over here the last year and a half now is, I got to start changing. I gotta change with the times, and I think that's what makes, certain guys. So like Paul Silva, for example, I think what makes Paul so good is he does change with the times, even though he's so old school, but at the same time, he's taken everything he's learned there and he's progressed over the years. And then things change, he changes with it and not just, well, this is what worked back in, 2012 when we won this
Yeah.
race and that race. It should work now. I'm like, no, it doesn't anymore. It just doesn't. Trust me. I know that. So,
Yeah.
um, that's what makes these guys so good are the guys that are willing to change. So I have to, as a driver and someone who's so heavily involved in the setup end of this thing, like I have to change my mindset as well. And that's something that we've been doing here, probably I know we had our off season, but the last 6 months, I've really changed the way, I work, and it's, helped us out a lot. So, I mean, we came out of California with 2 top 5. So right there's a proven statement that I've changed. Okay. So
Did
you
it
would
used
never
to be a
see
little
that out
bit
of me.
worse than that? Yeah. Did it
I
used to
dreaded
be?
going. So earlier when I said about, I was kind of like tiptoeing around the idea of maybe going World of Outlaw racing again. This was prior to High Limit.
Yep.
And, a lot of that decision making there was, I don't want to go to California. So that's like, if the Outlaws are going to continue to go there, I don't want to go. But no, I just struggle here. And I don't know if it's not the track shapes or the track sizes. Cause I mean, I've raced at a ton of small places. I just think it's the dirt and the way that they prep their tracks. And, I was actually talking to my guys this past weekend. I said, because just talking about how rough these tracks always are.
Yeah.
Right. And I told them the same thing. I think a lot of it is they just go out there, they tow it up right before heat the motor, and they make us go out there and run it in. Well, our cars aren't heavy enough to pack it down. Yeah, we run it in, but it's just not heavy enough to actually pack the dirt. So then we go out there and it just all peels up and it gets big holes in it, and it just makes it super tricky. And whenever you spend most of your time, especially around these crown jewel events, developing your program out of, around a certain field that you want to have, it's like, that's your mindset. That's what you utilize almost everywhere you go. But then when you come out here, it's just a different world. So it doesn't necessarily work. And that's something that I've just always struggled with. But we've changed some here and gotten a lot better. So I'm looking forward to coming back here in the fall, to be honest with you. So I think that we've made a lot of headway, and I think I can hopefully maybe compete for some wins out here, but we'll see.
So there's been some discussion, over the last couple of years about the format. You guys have basically kind of what the all-star format was in the past. Quick time starts fourth and everybody else straight up. The Outlaws have everybody straight up. The World of Outlaw late models have everybody straight up. And tell me what your thoughts would be on the perfect scenario for a racing format. And that I know there might not even be a correct answer for that. I'm not saying that we're going to hold you to anything.
I know so I've been a part of a lot of different formats. I'll be honest, I don't like any of these. I don't. The only races that I think I've only ever enjoyed, like fully enjoyed the format, was a point scenario, like passing points and so on and so forth. But the problem with that is it's so confusing. You just can't. The fans aren't going to be able to follow along with it. I can barely follow along with it half the time. So it's that's just really difficult. But the thing that I like most about that deal is you earn your spot. You where you start in a feature, that's what you've earned. So if you start on a pole, you earn the pole. If you start 10th, well, that's all you got. You didn't do a good enough job. And it still goes the same with the way the formats are today. Like you still have to earn those spots, but at the same time, a lot of it's based off of luck. The dash, for example, I think the dash is the biggest waste of time. You just depends on what pill you draw, the luck of the draw. If you go out and draw the one, you're lucky. You got the one. That's what sprint car racing is nowadays, is track position. You got to be in a good spot, and unfortunately, guys just get luckier than more often than other guys do, and so that's why I think you see a lot of that. So I don't like the dash because of that, and I think they're boring too. There's really not a whole lot of like actual racing. It's just a quick hot lap session just to test your car again. So, I just don't know what the best solution is for our sport. I really don't. I personally, like I said, I like the fact that you have to earn your spot every single time you hit the racetrack. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with drawing a pill or so on and so forth. So, but I don't know how you get people to follow along and understand it. That's the hardest part.
So something similar to the Chili Bowl. Do you like their format? On their qualifying nights, it's a passing point deal. I mean, at some point we're going to have to draw to establish an order. We're going to have to come up with something with the traveling stuff. We can't use I don't know if they still do the handicapping back in PA or not on some shows, but we can't do that on a national level.
Yeah. So see, like, we got to be careful with what we do, though, because I'll use the handicapping thing back in Pennsylvania. And I've been trying to tell this to people for a long time now. And the question is always brought up, well, why is there never any opportunities in Pennsylvania anymore? Well, because there's no more car owners. There's hardly any car owners anymore. And then, well, why is that? Well, it's because nobody's making money. Like, the car owners don't want to go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or even $1 million a year racing to not make any money. Well, why aren't they making money? Well, because you penalize them every week. I mean, this is sprint car racing now. Like, this is sprint car racing of today. There's no more coming from 16th at Williams Grove or 12th at Williams Grove to win a race. If you start 5th or 6th, you're lucky to even get a win. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're David Gravel or Brad Sweet or Donnie Schatz or anything like that. So even there, it's still tough to get a win, and it's just hard. And so if you can't penalize guys, number one, especially on a national scale, like, the passing point thing is great, but you also can't take we use Knoxville for example. What is it, 6 invert or 8 invert for the heat races?
Yeah, the nationals.
6. Yeah.
Yeah, they invert 8. It used to be 10, and now it's down to 8, and it's almost impossible anymore at 8.
Yeah, see, it's almost impossible at 8, but you also can't take something like that and do it every single week, because number one, you're, as a car owner, your car is more vulnerable in a spot every single night to tear stuff up. It costs me money. So, like, you have to be careful with what you do, because you still have to make this affordable for everybody. And as a driver, knowing, okay, I'm starting 8th. If I want to have an opportunity to win tonight and make some money myself, I'm going to have to drive stupid to pass all these guys in this heat race, put myself in a position. And I'm sorry, but you can't drive stupid every night and not get a bad result, crashing a car. So that's a tough thing to gamble with. It's like, well, what do we do? Do we do bigger inverts and then do the passing points thing? But at the same time, our guys are putting themselves in vulnerable positions a lot more. You got to think of it from every aspect. Obviously, as a driver, I'm a driver, I'm a car owner, and I'm also a fan of the sport. So you got to think of all three sides, right? That's something fans want to see. That's something car owners don't want to see, and that's something drivers dread to see. So
don't want to participate in.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough thing, but I feel like if there's a way to, I don't know. I just feel like if there's a way just to hone it together, and make it work, something different than what it is now, I think would be great. And I'm not necessarily saying that we need to do that in heat races, but maybe just change it up later in the night. I just don't know. Something I think we all need to sit down and talk about and figure out what the best route is. But also putting the fast guys on the front row every night is not, the most ideal thing either. But at the same time, that tends to produce some of the best racing too, because you got all the fast guys right there and they're racing each other super hard. Like, we're going to be right there racing each other. We're just going to be doing it up here instead of trying to come back from here to there. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. So one other thing I wanted to visit with you about, and it's been a hot topic lately, fuel cells.
Yeah.
I understand they're going to come off race cars. I'm talking about the size of them right now. I'm talking about fuel stops and things along those lines. My opinion is, you go any bigger than we already have, you guys are already carrying a big bomb around on your butt, especially at the starts of these races. So what are your thoughts on, fuel stops or length of duration before we have a fuel stop? Have any thoughts on those?
I hate fuel stops, I will say, but at the same time, like, I know our lap count's based off of a 33 gallon tank, but they still allow 28s. I mean, I run a 28. They have 28, 30s, 33s. If there's 28 gallon tanks out in the field, like, you have to base your lap count out around that. Like, if this is what we're gonna do, otherwise we gotta start mandating fuel cell sizes. That way everybody has the same, and we don't have to worry about this, and it's not a topic anymore. I don't know, but at the same time, if you keep going bigger, you're strapping more fuel to the back of your car, right? You're gaining more weight, which can also be very dangerous at the start of a race. Just take Tulare, for example, the other night. Going into turn one with a full fuel load was very sketchy. I mean, some nights it's very dangerous. There's only so much you can do to keep these cars under control. And then when you're dealing with conditions like that, and then having 200 pounds of fuel load behind you, like, it's hard to keep these things on all four wheels. So, and that puts guys in bad spots sometimes. I don't know. I just think that if we're still going to allow the different fuel sizes and still do what we're doing, I think that, we just need to mandate the number of laps based off a 28 gallon fuel cell. Well, here's another thing. Okay. So now we're not allowed to run lightweight bladders anymore. Okay. That rule goes into effect next year. Yep. So that takes about an extra gallon and a half out of your car, because it doesn't conform to the shell like a lightweight does. So now you're taking roughly a gallon of fuel out of your car, which can be a big difference at the end of a race. So they're making these rule changes and are making us do this stuff. You have to adjust accordingly. So the number of laps should come down at that point, knowing that, okay, our guys can't get the same amount of fuel in their cars anymore.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be looked at. But if this is gonna continue to be such a big topic, and they want to keep stretching the number of laps before we have a fuel cell or a fuel break, then I think they need to mandate a certain fuel cell size, and that way we all have the same playing field. Figure it out. I don't know, but I don't know. It's a tough subject.
Like I said,
I don't know.
And there's
what the
no
right
or wrong answer, and I'm not trying to pin you. Where you all of a sudden you've got the Hess or that somebody else saying we're out, or Doug or anybody, we're out to get him. We're not picking on anybody here. We're just saying what's the solution to everybody so we can make this topic go away, and for the betterment of the sport. That's all. The fan, and who knows how many fans really gripe about it. A lot of people don't remember back in the day. I don't even know if you remember. Every red was an open red, way back in the day. There was no tire rules.
That's something to look at, because almost every red flag that we have, we're sitting out there for 5 or more minutes anyway.
Yeah.
So why not let your guys come out and fuel up? And then, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it just have to be an open, right? Because there's not enough officials to police it.
No,
you can't
there's
just
not.
you can't just say, well, not only that, I think it would be more of a safe. So, high limits allowing these tire pumps, right? So that way pumps air back in the tire.
Yes. Yep.
So you can take that and use that as a safety factor as well. With the World of Outlaws, they don't allow it. So their guys are sitting at a red flag for 10 minutes, maybe. It depends on the type of crash. And your tires just constantly losing air. Well, then you're going to go into turn one on a very juiced up heavy racetrack on a heavy fuel load with hardly any air in a regular tire. I mean, it gets yourself in trouble. And it puts, like I said before, it puts guys in very vulnerable positions. I feel like some injuries have occurred because of not being able to regulate, your tire pressure. You just go in there and the car sticks and it's up on two wheels and then it just keeps going. And the next thing you know, there's nothing you can do sometimes. So it makes it very difficult, but I just, I think that's something to look at too. Every time there's a red flag, hey, it's go out there, check your fuel, check your air, do whatever you need to do. I mean, we're just sitting there anyways. Well, I don't know.
Well, and I like the idea, make it simple. This is air and fuel only, guys.
Yeah.
They're not changing tires, obviously. Back then, you used to be able to change a tire. You could do anything you wanted during an open red.
Yeah. And in today's world, I mean, there's enough officials out there. I think they can regulate that. I really do.
The drivers and the crew members will police each other too.
Well,
we know that.
Too. Everybody's watching each other. I mean, if something's done out of line, it's going to be said. So, especially if they can, if you're going to benefit from it. So, yeah, I mean, that's just something to look at. I think that's a good idea. But I don't know. I just don't think that we can continue. I think that's just a bad look for our sport, especially when we're getting down to like the very end of the race. Guys are running out of fuel left and right, and we have a fuel stop of 2 to go. Like I think it's a bad look too. And another thing to look at too is one thing I've noticed about National Series. From running what I was running as a true outlaw schedule to a National Series, for whatever reason, tracks prep their surfaces differently. Like a National
Series come in.
When a National Series comes in, the water truck guy just forgets to turn off the water valve. Seems like every single time,
Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this real quick, because back in the day, I used to spend a lot of time on the forums and all that. You got the professional fans chirping in, and they're saying that it's the high limit is dictating to the track how to prep the track. The Outlaws are dictating to the track, and you and I know that's not the case 99% of the time.
No, the only times that as we show up to the racetrack, like the series is not dictating how the track prepares it, its surface, right? But what the series does do throughout the night is try to give us the best racing service possible.
Yes.
So use Paris, for example, this past Saturday night, like the way we ended time trials would have been perfect for the feature. So obviously Mike Cass knows that, He knows that if we continue on and not do anything to straight track, it's going to take rubber in the heat races. It's going to take rubber in the dash or the B main. Like it's just not going to be good. So he knows that. So he has to be on the radio with the track prep crew, helping them give us the best racing surface possible. So, like after the heat races, like, hey guys, like you guys need to get out there and work this track a little bit, give us a better surface. That's the type of stuff that they're doing. They're trying to help throughout the actual night to give us a better surface. And if it is way too wet and heavy and it doesn't need any work, hey, can you guys get your trucks out there and pack this thing in, try to give my guys a better surface to race on? That's the type of stuff they're doing, but they're not calling the track up prior, like the week prior, saying like, hey, we want this a certain way. It doesn't work like that.
No.
But that's just one thing that I've noticed though over the years, running what I was running to what I am now. I'll go race an unsanctioned race somewhere, and it's the best surface ever. Like this is really fun. And we'll come back next time with a national touring series, and it's like, what the hell happened? This was awesome the last time I was here, but this time now it's like I'm running my ass off to pass for 8th, and I'm not getting anywhere.
Why do you think they do that? Why do you think that it is that way?
I don't know. I can't
It's
figure it
crazy.
out. But
I know.
it's just
I
something
agree.
that I've noticed. I don't know. I just always said, the track guys, like, just prep it the same way you always would, just because we're coming in. Honestly, you probably have to prep it less when we're coming in most of the time, especially for high limit, because we're the only division,
Yeah.
so you don't have to prep it like there's 80 cars in the pits. There's only 30, and we're not going to be doing as many laps on it as what, like, 3 or 4 divisions would be doing. So, um, I don't know. Maybe that's some of it. Maybe they are prepping it the same, but we just don't have a lot of laps on it like other
Yeah.
nights. I really don't know.
Right on. Okay, so you guys are sitting. Where did you tell me you parked here for a couple days? You're
In
out in.
Maricopa, Arizona, just south of
Okay.
Phoenix.
Yeah. So you guys are at Central Arizona Speedway Friday and Saturday, which is in Casa Grande. Thank you. I've been there. I've actually been. I'm actually ahead of you. I've been to that racetrack. I was there a couple
Really?
years ago.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, they've changed it quite a bit since I was there, but I think
Okay.
it'll be okay. I think it's going to race okay. And then you guys go over to Vado. Yep. And Royal I'm sure will take very good care of you guys over there.
I've been wanting to race at that track for a while now. So ever since he built it, I've never been there, so I'm excited to get there.
Yeah. Yep. And then you finish out, I know you go to Dodge City, but I'm not sure about the one in between there. So that's
Amarillo, Route 66.
Yeah.
That's
So
gonna be
you'll end
another
up
new one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll end up in Dodge City a week from this coming Saturday. Then you guys have a couple weeks off to regroup, which is kind of nice. But I think there is an opening for you guys. You talk about how important it is to get to Knoxville. Were we going to see you at Knoxville in April?
No, we won't. We're going to have 3 weeks off. I'm going to give that time to my guys, go home and see their families, see their kids.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, because if I didn't do that, from the moment we left to the moment we would get back in May, it would be all but 3 months. So
yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
Gonna fly. Yeah, I'm gonna fly my guys home. My in-laws live in Fort Worth, so we're gonna keep all my equipment there. They're gonna fly home. We're gonna spend some time with my family down there as well.
Oh, okay.
Because we haven't, we live in Pennsylvania, obviously. So
yeah, I know it.
I haven't had a chance to spend much time with them over the last several months, especially with our daughter. Our daughter just being born last September, so I haven't really done much traveling since then. And so, and in my opinion too, is so iffy all the time that time of year at Knoxville, whether or not they're even going to race.
It could snow.
It could snow, yeah.
Yeah.
And the track is never even close to what it is in August, so I feel like we would not even learn anything, to be honest. So I'm just gonna skip out on that.
Yeah, good. Well, Brent, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. It was short notice. You were awesome to like, heck yeah, I'll come on there with you. So
yeah,
and I think I'm gonna have to talk to the guys in the future, because last week I had Dason. He was sitting in his t-shirt trailer with about the exact same angle with some stuff hanging behind him too. So I'm kind of getting used to that look too. So, but you know what, you got to find what works when you can when you're out on the road. So appreciate
find some privacy too. So it's hard.
Yeah. Well, like I said, do it in the trailer. Let's hear the real, background noise. But I know how that guy probably be bleeping some stuff out here and there. So that's all good. But wish you the best of luck moving forward. It's been great getting to know you a little bit better and talking a little bit about some stuff that's happened in the past. And like I said, I wish you nothing but the best of luck moving forward.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I love fun.
All right, and it's been great talking to Brent. What a great guy. A lot of fun to talk to. Learned a lot about him, too, especially the younger side of him, how he got started. So good stuff there, that's for sure. Really excited about the guest I got coming up next week. Not going to be able to share that with you yet because I got to get all the details worked out, but it's going to be a good one if we can get it put together, and I'm pretty confident we can. So thanks again, everybody, for joining in for episode 4 of Hot Lappin' with Lanman. Gonna appreciate it real much if you guys would hit that follow button. Like I always say, hit that share button, hit that like button. It's gonna help me out a lot. And this thing's really growing. I'm really pleased with how we've done with it so far. And that's thanks to all of you guys for tuning in and listening every week. Other than that, we're gonna hit the road now. We will see you somewhere down the road at your local racetrack. Have a great one, folks.